Yes, you wanted to talk about if slavery and freedom are morally neutral.
Yeah, I say that slavery and freedom are neutral vehicles, meaning that they don't, in and of themselves, by nature, are good or bad. Basically, what is good is pretty much what will help or have humanity or people to flourish and continue to survive, not tearing down life but building it up.
Right, but slavery slavery by definition would not allow you to have a flourishing life.
That's not the definition.
Therefore it's bad.
Yeah, what I mean by slavery is pretty much obligation and control. So it's a sense of obligation and then having the controlling the ability of freedom. So that leaves freedom the same way.
Hold on. I'm confused here. Slavery, we can just associate that with being a slave, having very little control, if any, of your life, someone else controlling you, probably in a method that involves force. And freedom, you could say, is the emancipation from slavery. Like someone else cannot use force to limit you or to tell you what to do.
So when you're talking about slavery, you're thinking about history, is that right?
Actual slaves, yeah.
So you're thinking about it in terms of history of this world, what we've experienced in our history books, what we've read and all like that, documentaries.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not talking about slavery in a context. I'm talking about slavery without context at all.
Okay, but what would be the defining characteristic of slavery? If you are a slave, what does that mean?
Well, it means that you are controlled and your ability to freedom is controlled and you're under obligation. Now,
No.
the terms of
How
that,
are you how are you controlled?
well, there's another entity being controlling you.
Using what? How are they controlling me?
Whatever way that entity does it. See,
No,
it's
it has to be false because I don't want to be controlled.
right. It's force, but it's of how that force is being used. There's no I didn't uh, detail any details of that.
Physical force.
Well,
Otherwise, I would just literally run away.
that's one way. There's a lot of ways you can control things without even
No,
physical force.
I look. If we don't, this is already going in many different directions. If we don't nail down clear definitions, then we're just going to be talking in the air this whole time. Can you appreciate when I say I let's say I want to live my life, and I too want my life to be a flourishing life. And if someone tries to impose something on me through physical force, then that would move the needle closer to slavery. Would that seem fair to you?
In that context, in other words, I can draw up a
Okay.
context where I can have a flourishing life and I'm still enslaved.
So okay, how's that? Okay, let me ask you a question. If I'm in a if I'm in a prison cell, but a lot like the size of a large living room, okay, and throughout my life, I'm given everything I need. Like I'm given food, I'm given, books to read, movies to watch, video games to play, and doctors can come into my prison cell, make sure that I'm fit and healthy within reason, and I live till 120 years old, but I never leave my cell. Is that a flourishing life?
Yeah, because flourishing life really just means it wasn't you. Everything was done to really keep it going until it couldn't go anymore. That's what I mean by flourishing.
So I lived 120 years in a prison cell. Like I got stuff that I want, but I was never able to make any choices outside this room. I don't think that's a flourishing life at all.
And there's,
I was in a prison cell. Stuff was provided for me, but I never really, I don't know, experienced life. Never really stepped outside the prison cell. Never had a relationship. Never tried anything risky. Just and got the reward for it. I just stayed in my cell, received stuff that some bureaucrat or some or the warden of the prison cell said that all prisoners will receive. And I lived till 120 years old. I just didn't live a flourishing life.
all right, so now let's look at it this way. If you weren't in the penal prison and you were out in society and you were left to, with all your choices, you can make your own decisions or whatever. And a lot of those decisions help deplete your life. And you actually you didn't have long of a life as you would have lived in prison. Let's say you only lived to be 50, 65, whatever. Are you going to say that's more of a flourishing life than what you had in prison?
I mean, honestly, if it was my choices and I tried and I used the best of my abilities to live my life, and let's say I ran into some unfortunate events that I were out of my control, or even as a result of my choices, at least I tried. At least I lived my life. I took risks and went in a particular direction, and didn't look back and complain about it. I lived a life, something, not like a vegetable in a cage.
So you're going to say the shorter lifespan was a more flourishing life?
Could be, yeah. It was at least it was outside, not inside someone's cell. If
Okay.
if a slave if a slave lived at 120 years old versus a free man who was able to, experience life till the age of 60, but at least they were able to experience life. At least it was a life worth living.
Um, so let's say somebody that was younger than you, they died at 15 years old, 20
All right.
years.
Okay. So we can tweak the variables, but where are we going?
Well, we're going where I'm asking these questions, but you got to listen.
No. All right. I can appreciate we're tweaking the variables, but which direction are we going?
We're going
Can
in
you
the
can you
direction of these
appreciate the fact that
questions. We're
can
going
you
in the directions of
can you
these
appreciate the
questions, so
fact?
you're going to have to listen.
Right.
See,
Can you
don't be scared of the
did you
questions.
listen to my?
Don't be
I
scared of the
appreciate that, but
questions.
did you listen? I Look. We can ask each other a series of questions. I just want to make sure you understood the being a vegetable in a prison part. Was that? Did you appreciate that or not really?
Yes, so my response is a question. Now, if we're going to do this, we got to be able to ask questions. Now, don't be scared of questions. So now,
I'm not
my
scared of
question
questions. I'm
is,
scared of wasting time.
if you think you're scared of wasting time, then be gone.
No, the wasting time element that I'm concerned about is the vagueness of the definition, because I just want to go down a clear direction. I'm happy to answer questions, but it just seems to me that we're talking about something very ethereal that's not nailed down. That's not the definitions aren't clear. That's my concern.
Well, you're nailing it down to a context, and I've already explained to you the definition of the word I'm using. Maybe you just don't get it. But let me go back to my
I
questions. My question
Okay,
is,
so can I ask a clarifying question then?
I want to continue because you're kind of derailing where I'm going. Then I'm going to forget my whole point. So
Okay.
put a pin in what you got to ask, and let me get back to my question. Can we do that?
Sure.
Appreciate it. So if a person that's 20, 15 years old, 25 years old, younger than 65, and that person didn't really do much in life, they were starting to get there, did that person have a less flourishing life than you?
I don't know.
So that person may have had all the choices in the world, wasn't a slave according to you, or what you believe a slave is. Like a lot of the similar things that you've done in life, made your choices, and you've got to experience different things. But they happen to live a lesser time on this earth, but you don't know if they lived a more just about a flourishing life as you.
Well, I would say that because I lived longer on Earth than someone who's 15, 16,
Oh,
then I would have had a more flourishing life than them. But during this life, I was able to make choices.
okay.
I was able to make more choices than they do. I was able to take more action. I was able to experience more out of life than they have. I wasn't inside a prison the whole time, though. Because if you ask me, if a 15, 16-year-old person who died of a tragic, who didn't experience life, who didn't get to enjoy life, versus someone who was imprisoned their whole life, then maybe then we could have a debate about that.
So what was your clarifying question?
Well, what do you understand freedom to be?
Well, the ability to be able to do,
So options, choices.
just being able. That's really all freedom is until you can't go any
Okay,
further
if
with it.
so, if I'm sick, let's say I have a very strong cold.
Okay, context.
While I have a cold, I'm just trying to understand. While I have a cold, am I less free?
Less free to do what?
Well, my body is physically, it's more difficult to walk around. I have to stay in bed a lot. Am I less free according to your definition?
You're less free to walk around. You have less freedom in that, or be mobile.
Do you understand? But do you understand what I'm saying? I have less while I'm ill, while my body is ill, I have less abilities to do certain things. Does that mean I'm less free?
You're less free to do certain things. See, I always attach it to a context. That's my whole point. That's why it's neutral until you put a context with it.
Okay, but to live life in reality, you would encounter some context. Like you can't you can't say what you're saying in like devoid from reality. It's
Freedom,
not like a well, freedom. It's not like you're describing freedom, and as the way I'm imagining you're describing it is as if I'm like and without context, as if I'm like in some sort of space where nothing's affecting me, and you're saying the second something is affecting me, then there's a context and it's no longer that thing.
freedom is not good or bad in and of itself. Depends on what you do with it, who's using it.
Yeah, I would say that freedom is necessary but not sufficient to live a flourishing life.
So you say freedom is necessary. How do you know it is
Yes.
necessary?
Well, without freedom, then I'm unable to make the choices that could let me live a flourishing life.
Yeah, if you're using freedom to uh, live a flourishing life, which is to help prolong it, which is that's how I'm defining it, then in that context, yeah, freedom would be good for that.
I don't know if I mean obviously prolonging it can be a positive thing, can certainly be part of flourishing life, but there could be conditions where prolonging it will not be considered a flourishing life. Like your life is long but painful and difficult.
Okay, so in that case, that freedom would be bad to make those choices to live a
No, no, the
more
the
dreadful,
prolonging
agonizing life.
flourishing
Yeah,
life. You're part of it.
it all depends on the goal and where you're trying to go. That's the main thing. The
True, but
freedom in and of itself and slavery in and of itself are not constructive or non-constructive alone. You have to attach what is the end goal. That's my
well,
whole case.
they're absolutely constructive because you can't you can't reach your end goal without the freedom to go towards it.
Unless my end goal is no freedom.
You if you yourself said you have a goal to have a flourishing life, but you if you don't have the freedom to go towards that goal, then you won't be able. It's just that's like the baseline. You have to have the freedom to take certain steps to reach that goal. Without it, there is no flourishing life. There is no you haven't started the road towards that.
Yeah. Yep. I look at that the same way with slavery and freedom.
Why would you do that?
Because like freedom,
I-
slavery is depending on what's being done with it, who's using it, who's it being done on.
so are you arguing that through slavery someone can live a flourishing life?
Yes.
How so? Give me a context.
Well, let's just say basically all of the things that make a flourishing life, you are obligated and enslaved to having.
I don't think so at all. No, no, no.
I can force you to have a flourishing life, and you're a slave to it.
Give me a context.
I just did.
No, I
Everything that will have you to be have a flourishing life, you will be enslaved to that life. You cannot get out of it.
I don't understand. I don't understand what you're describing at all. How are you forcing me to have a flourishing life? How can the two things? How can force be associated with flourishing? It seems
It
to me that
yeah,
just the application of force negates that option.
flourishing is not synonymous with non-enslavement.
I think
That's
it is.
not what I'm saying. They're not synonymous.
I think it is.
Okay, yeah, you think it is. Yeah, I understand that. That's why you believe or you think to yourself that living a lesser of a life with lesser experiences, lesser everything is more flourishing than having more experiences or more activities or whatever, even in a prison cell or in a penal prison.
No, I gave the example that living a long life, so the specific variable is a long period of time where I'm living in a prison and everything's provided for me, but I'm not living a flourishing life. It is that is not a flourishing life because I'm stuck in a prison. I don't make choices.
Yeah,
I
I
get to have
understand. That's what I
experiences
basically
outside of.
said. I understand. I understand that point.
Okay, and I would you consider the example I gave of the prison to be a flourishing life?
The example you gave, yes,
That to you would be an example of a flourishing life.
yes, because it's
Could you tell me why?
everything. Cause, well, I think I defined it earlier. Everything that builds up life versus tearing it down. So you basically had a shorter lifespan outside of prison. You did something to tear it down based on your own decisions. Because you're sticking to where I can make my own decisions. A lot of my decisions doing what I want. So most likely, you probably made some unhealthy decisions that tore down your life prematurely.
Well, I could have encountered an accident because when you're in a prison, you can't get run over by a car, for example. You're safe in quotations in a prison cell. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I made a bad choice. But even if I did make a bad choice, it was mine to make, and I can make mistakes and I can correct them, and I can then after correcting them and again correcting them based on what the feedback reality gives me, then I'm able to live a flourishing life. But if I'm in prison, I don't get to make any choices. I'm given food, I'm given entertainment, but I can't make any choices outside the prison cell. I
Yeah,
can't live my life really.
yeah. The difference between us is that from where you're sitting, flourishing means being able to just almost like liberalism, just do whatever you want, long as you're deciding it. What I'm saying flourishing is from where I'm sitting is that it's building up life as far as you can without tearing it down. That's all.
Okay, so would you say in your ideal society you would have like this sort of prison-like example that I've given, with the government, narrows your choices severely, so you don't make any mistakes, or like you don't take any risks, gives you everything the government knows you need or thinks on average will make people the happiest. In some sort of utilitarian equation where everyone's taken care of, but they're in some sort of figurative prison and they're very limited in what they can do in their life. Would that seem to you the maximum utility that a government can do?
Sounds like you're asking is the ideal for everybody to be imprisoned. Uh, I don't think you have to be in.
Um,
Go ahead.
I I'm using the prison example as a way to just kind of come get the point across that you have less options, but you take less risk, or a lot less options and a lot less risk.
I mean, I think that's the point of flourishing is if you can minimize risks of danger, because I want to be specific with that, minimize the risk of harm, then sure. What's the point of taking needless harm? But
So you would agree with my so, what I said?
no, I would just say that you don't have to be imprisoned by the government or whatever. I mean, people can learn. A lot of people now can learn that they can do a lot of things to flourish their lives or extend their lives out without even, being obligated by a government or the law.
Right, but if a government removes the option for you to take certain things that if the government removes certain choices from you, that in those that within those choices there could have been some risk, and now both the choice and the risk are eliminated, then it then you have less freedom throughout your life, which is I think your point.
Well, if you have less freedom to flourish your life, I don't see how that's bad. If you have more freedom to flourish your life, I don't see how that's bad. It all depends on or is your life being flourished, whether you have the freedom to or if it's being done for you.
Right, I said that to some degree freedom isn't everything. You need to make decisions, you need to make the right decisions, and those would be in the context of, again, of reality. So when I said it's necessary but not sufficient, the other part of that statement would be you need to make rational decisions, the ability to be rational, the ability to use reason, to then make decisions that give you a flourishing life. But you definitely need to have the freedom to do that, because if you don't have the freedom to do that, then you won't have a flourishing life. You won't be able to make rational decisions. You hope that someone else will make rational decisions for you, but that may not be the case for you.
Yeah, you could look at it like this way. I think I've said this before on other platforms. Is that I say freedom in and of itself by nature is not good or bad because it can be used. Freedom is taken away for the good as well as granted for the good.
You said freedom is the ability to do something. How is it taken away?
A lot of people's freedoms gets taken away from breaking the law.
Well, I don't see how breaking the law helps you live a flourishing life.
But it's speaking to the fact that when I say that freedom in and of itself is not good or bad, is because it can go either way. Freedom is taken away for the good, and it is granted to those with freedom that's also good.
Right. So if you have the freedom and then you use that freedom to hurt someone, yeah, and then as a result, and again I'm placing a context here, but then as a result you're put in prison, someone's taken away your freedom because you hurt someone, then yeah, you made a bad decision. You had the freedom to make a bad decision and you made a bad decision.
So that's why I say it's neutral in and of itself.
No, but I say it's necessary but not sufficient. Because if you don't give someone that freedom, that to make, if you don't give someone that freedom, then that is bad because they never had the opportunity to make the right decisions.
Is freedom in and of itself good?
I think so, yeah. But it's just is one part of the equation.
So freedom is always good to give to people.
Did you hear that there was a condition to my statement?
I didn't understand what that meant. That's why I'm asking this question because
No,
I'm asking these
I'm
straightforward
saying
questions.
I'm saying freedom is good, but it comes with a condition.
I'm asking these straightforward questions to make it simpler so we can both understand each other, be on the same
It's
page.
still simple. It's still
Uh,
simple, but
see, it's
I'm saying it comes with a condition.
right. So this basic question is: freedom always good? No or yes?
Always good?
Yes.
No, without any conditions.
Freedom can either be abused, or you can see reason of what to do with your freedom. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. It's just what you do with that freedom would determine. Like, okay, this person needs to be detained or whatever.
Rufus, I know this is a room, but it's actually a one-on-one debate. Sorry.
Oh, then you should be able to actually be able to fix that then if you go to the channel settings.
No, this is
Or
open.
if you don't know how to.
Yo,
Or
this is
if
an
you don't
open
know.
room. This is an open room.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was a debate.
It is, but it's still open.
Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in here. I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I've invited others to come on. I kind of want all of us to get together.
Yeah.
So
And
go on, Rufus. What were you saying?
sorry. Oh, sorry. And I honestly do apologize for interrupting too. I know he wanted to answer and whatnot. Do you want to go ahead and answer, or do you want me to finish or whatever?
I guess you could finish.
Okay. And I do apologize again. But in retrospect, freedom is the right of every human being until somebody abuses that freedom. Say um, somebody decides to drink and drive, right? Now, nobody's going to stop you from making that decisions, even though there are laws saying you can't do this, but nobody's going to uh, nobody can force you to make the decision for yourself. If you drink and drive, that it was of your own choosing, even though you were drunk. And something happens, say you run into a fire hydrant, which will cost a lot of money. Now, um, and you could be arrested due to the consequences of the choices that he made while under the influence and whatnot. Because he abused the freedom of drinking so much alcohol, and then he decides to go into his car and start driving, and got into an accident, which could have resulted in him losing not only his life but other people's lives. So it depends of like if somebody were gonna abuse their freedom, good or bad. I mean, it wouldn't matter. It all depends on who's gonna abuse that freedom. Now that's all I have to say. And I do again, like for the upteenth time, I do apologize for coming here and interrupting and whatnot. I just thought, since you asked a question, I was like, I wanted to butt in. Just I'm sorry,
It's okay.
but yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, appreciate that. PZH, what were you saying?
Yeah, I just said it's freedom is again it's on a scale of slavery to freedom. Freedom would be on the positive side, slavery would be on the negative side, but it's not sufficient. It's necessary but not sufficient to live a flourishing life. Without freedom, you can't. You just cannot live a flourishing life.
Yeah, I think Rufus just pretty much he might have uh, maybe backed up what I was saying. You're saying slavery on the negative side, freedom on the positive side. Well, it depends on who you're enslaving and who you're giving the freedom to. I really think you're just looking at the
Give me an
context of
example
this.
of someone. Give me an example of someone I should enslave.
Give you an example of someone you should enslave. Is that what you asked?
Yes, yes.
Let me see. Pretty much any criminal
Right, but
that's
criminal.
not
So
remorseful that probably cannot be stopped unless they are enslaved.
right. So if you have some sort of indication that someone is just violent, let let's say mentally insane or something's just wrong, deeply wrong with that person, and there's a good likelihood that they're going to harm other people, then they're kind of like left that rational, taking rational action, taking actions to live a flourishing life. They just want to destroy everyone else's. They no longer care about living a flourishing life. So I would then under that situation, or if they've taken some actions to already destroy someone else's life, then sure, they should be in prison. I wouldn't call that slavery, but I guess in this context you can. I would just say they lose their freedoms.
And that's good, right?
That is good. But
From from
they had a choice. They had a choice.
So slavery can be good.
no, slavery
I,
slavery is not good. In my, if you want to look at it like this, slavery is basically taking another's person free will, another person's freedom away. Technically, that's what slaves are. Is that their freedom has been taken away from them forcibly, and they were forced to do things that you would never, in a million years, would have seen someone do.
So taking
Slavery is not good. It may be profitable, yes, but that's not really good at all.
so ta-
Profitable, yes. Good, no. The morality of it is just it says differently.
so taking away
And with the slave trade, oh, sorry.
yeah, so taking away freedom from a person is always bad. Is that right?
Yes.
I think the justice system would disagree.
Now
well,
that's a different context. Hold on, that's a different context. So people who break the law, right? Say you were selling drugs, right? You're you're selling drugs. Those drugs ended up in the hands of minors and whatnot because you abuse your freedom and abuse drugs, or you decided to take the drugs and you want to sell them to make a profit off of it. You broke the law and you got caught by the law. So now as a consequence to your action for breaking the law, you were to be punished. And then you were sent to prison due to the evidence that was presented in court. That is a consequences to you doing something bad and breaking the law the way they did. That is something different. In the terms of slavery, the slave traders, people who enslave other people, all have one thing in common. They want to be profitable and to live a luxurious life. That's well, technically two things. Those
can
are the
I
things
can
that
I
slave traders really have in common throughout the years, and it's all bad, and they deserve to be in prison because of it.
can I can I can I just say something? guys have a thick American accent. Can I just, including Mall, can I just say, so the context, Mall, the context is that the end result has to be a flourishing life, from what you've already said. So if someone tries
I
to,
never said flourishing though.
no, no, he did.
Oh, he did. Oh, okay, my apologies.
So basically, sorry. So the context is slavery or freedom is good or bad or neutral in the context of living a flourishing life. So the question is, if someone uses the freedom, I uses the freedom to end someone else's flourishing life, or they no longer care about themselves living a flourishing life. They just want to destroy other people's. What would you say would be good under that situation?
If it's
You're asking me.
if it's
I'm asking
because
Mo.
what
Sorry.
well only I brought up flourishing life because that's how I'm defining good and bad or separating the two.
Okay.
So
Sure.
uh, I'm hearing that slavery is bad because from your perspective I would say that too because I have a particular context in mind when you talk about slavery. In that context, yeah, I think one person was about to mention the slave trade. That's talking about the context or history of this world, right? What we learned about. Yeah, so that
Sorry.
that that would be bad, of course, in that context.
Okay. So if someone wants to use the freedom to disrupt or end the flourishing of someone else's life, right? Then they should lose their freedom, and that would be a good thing.
The one that's going to try to end or destroy the flourishing of another's life, that person that's going to do it, it would be good to have their freedom taken away.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
does anybody else have anything else to add? Because we
I think we're
there's
in
an
agreement then,
opportunity.
right?
I think we're in agreement,
More
but
or
you
less.
just don't. The way I'm explaining it, I think it's throwing you off. But I think we are coming from the same spot. It's just I think the language I'm using is kind of throwing you off. Does anybody
I
else?
mean, you're speaking English. I think just the way you were phrasing it, I think might have gave off the wrong impression.
Mm-hmm.
But but I, I, I I think we're all in agreement that uh, slavery bad and freedom's the right of everybody until they abuse it.
Right. The way I'm explaining it, I'm saying they're neutral. I think that's what's throwing you guys off. But when you
What
put the
about neutrality?
but when you put the context to it, you'll probably agree with me. But you're not looking at it contextless. You're looking at it always with a built-in context. I think that's the difference.
But isn't
Context is going hand to hand with a lot of situations, and they can never be separate though.
but it what there is a context though. That context is how you define a flourishing life.
What I'm saying is, you
I
know,
mean, I agree with that
if I
context
just
by the way.
say it's good that we all have freedom, you probably always say yeah. I wouldn't say that. I really don't know if it's good for you or her or anybody to actually have freedom or not, unless I know what kind of person they are.
Right, but you said in the context of a flourishing life.
Yeah, the flourishing life
Is that
part I think is tripping you up. So like the way I'm trying to put
no?
it, the way I'm
I
trying to
like it.
put it is just basically what I've been saying so far. It's just a person, uh, like we just agreed that if a person that is trying to take away somebody's life, it is good that that person's freedoms get taken away. But the freedom is
Okay.
supposed to be good to have. But in that case, it was good to take it away.
Well, again, I put a condition on freedom, and that condition is as long as you're heading towards a flourishing life or not taking someone else's flourishing life, then freedom is good.
Yeah, different way of putting it there. Does anybody else have something to add to the topic, or you want to change? I don't know if PCH,
Hmm?
you want anything further?
No, that's I mean that's fine. I think so. So for example, regards to the tripping up with the language, I once had like a debate with someone about free will, and they define free will as like free from anything, like some sort of angelic, ethereal freedom to do anything about, and not tied to reality. And I said in that debate to them that look, I'm a biological being. I will at some point need to eat and drink. I'm always dependent on food and water and air. So I can't be free in the ethereal sense. So
I don't know who said that.
there was
I don't
always
know
some
who.
hold on. There's always some context, and that context is reality. So and I agree with you. Like I agree with what you said that in reality we all want to live flourishing lives. That's just a given, and I totally agree with that.
I can't say all of
So
us.
I think it needs to have a context. Otherwise, it can't be like up in the air.
Hmm. What would you
I
say?
don't know who said that freedom is the you being free from anything, because that sounds very
Yeah, it's like a
strange.
libertarian. It's like a libertarian kind of. It's difficult to
In,
explain.
in terms of free will, is what free will means is that the freedom to make your own decisions. That means like you had a decision to come on Discord and start having debates. That was your decision. That was your freedom to make a choice. You know, and you know, yeah. I don't know. I don't know which person you talked to about being free of anything. I don't know if that was. I don't know if you thought I said that or whatever.
It was like 3-4 years ago on another server.
Oh, okay. Because for a second I thought you thought I would. For a second there, I thought you thought I was saying that and thought I should clear that up.
No. Anyway, thank you guys. It was a nice. Thank you, Mole.
All right, thank you
No
for.
problem.
Thank you.
Hello and goodbye. Anybody got any hot take?
Yes.
I don't know. So should I don't know. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
Yes. Does anyone else have anything to say on the topic?
I think Mole. I think Krishan wanted to talk to you. He said he wanted to have a chat with you. I remember.
Yeah, he just dropped out.
Yeah, he's only in the chat below. He's made his own room, I think.
All right, one moment.
Freedom.
Do you want to go down there, Mole? That's what I'm asking. Oh look, he's back.
Okay.
Hey, he just told me to jump off the bridge. He said he'd be right behind me, you know?
What the fuck?
Whoa, so dark.
Classic Billy.
Dear God.
What I mean.
I just opened the door and then there was a bridge and I jumped.
Like pulling a prank on Robin and Teen Titans. What?
We are all here.
More or less.
Okay.
Go on, then. Krishan, get on with it. Go on.
Okay. So.
What?
Okay. So they're saying, Krishan, you wanted to speak about a topic before. I can't remember what it was.
They is me, Krishan, by the way. That me and my several other personalities.
Well, so sorry. Excuse me. Yeah, Malt. So I remember I ran into you because you did a debate in the server a couple weeks ago with some atheist about the morality of God in the Old Testament, and like I felt that guy like put up a really poor performance.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I was just kind of wanting to see if you wanted to go into that.
Just out of interest, who was the poor performing atheist?
I can't remember. I hadn't seen them before.
You blanked out of memory. It was so bad you had to forget his name, profile picture.
it's the only time I've seen them in the server was to do that debate.
And what was particularly bad about his points, I guess, when he was talking to Mal?
Okay, well, the thing I didn't like, I think the topic of the debate was something like, is God immoral according to Scripture, right?
Yes.
So it seemed like the idea was that this should be an internal critique, right? We're trying to assume the Christian worldview and then figure out if God is moral according to that. But the atheist guy, he kept, like, whenever they would go into morality, he would just say, but morality is subjective, right? It just is the case that morality is subjective. And, like, ultimately, I agree with him, right? But I think that was so inappropriate for that debate, right? That's not what's going on here. Like, we're trying to talk about according to the morality of the Bible is God.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like, look, if morality is subjective, then you don't have an argument, right? But if their argument is that it's subjective, you would want to do an internal thing with it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, and so he just kept appealing to standards that weren't the Bible, right? So I just felt like, well, that's maybe appropriate for a different debate, but not for this one, right? But here's my angle, right? That I was going to approach this idea from. Does God command that killing is wrong?
God definitely does not. My KD in there is like crazy.
And like even beyond killing, what about like genocide, right? To like wipe a people out.
Eek.
Or
do we want to talk about that?
Well, I think you have to when we're talking about the Old Testament.
That's true.
Right?
And
like
the innocent, and just right? All religious wars generally. I think it's how the religious consider the other who's not religious. It says the most about like how good their religion is, and the least fortunate. It says a lot. So like I was watching Jimmy Carter's funeral earlier today, and dude, that guy was real religious, like for real. Prayed and shit. Can't imagine that. So I have a lot of respect for that, like deep respect for it. And then Biden like looked right at Trump when he was like talking about dictators not bowing to dictators, and Hillary Clinton like smirked. It was the funniest shit. But anyways, yes, I think Krishan, I think the thing is like, is killing permissible for God? It should never be, right? Like if you interpret the religion the proper way. And should religion be about holding the virtues of like wealth and status and power? No, it should be humility and grace, and those values and virtues, right? So I think people can't really. I think we have to judge a religion by how it treats people who aren't adherents.
Well, the person that I was debating, he couldn't prove his point, and I pretty much believed that he wasn't going to be able to do so because the topic was, I forget how it was, along the lines of according to the scripture or based on the scripture. He wasn't able to demonstrate from the scripture that teaches that God is evil. So that's what I kept asking for. He kept giving me his opinion, but he wasn't giving me any scripture
right.
that the scripture taught that God is evil, because it's according to the scripture. Now, there are some scriptures that I know of that have the word evil in the context, and God is in the same context. That's what I thought he would have brought up, and I was gonna be prepared for that because I'm aware of those scriptures. Of course, I didn't say anything because I'm not gonna try to help you. Not gonna try to.
No need to hand it to him. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was really just trying to debate his opinion, and it's your opinion is your opinion. We're here to either.
Right. That's a separate debate, but not for that one.
We're here to either prove what's factual and what's debunk what's not.
Right. And I do remember you saying that, right? Show me where in Scripture, it says that God is evil, and I don't think that's the proper route for the atheist side to go down. Where
that would be crazy. That would be absolutely insane.
Obviously, it never explicitly says the words, God is evil, or anything like that. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that the Bible teaches sets of moral principles, what is good and what is evil, and I think that God commits evil acts. Right?
Yes, and the differentiation.
God is evil.
No, it's not that God is evil. I think that God has this, like, Kierkegaard does the best at this, right? Like, Kierkegaard explains the Abraham and Isaac myth. I'm calling it a myth. I'm gonna call it a myth. Fuck yeah. Abraham and Isaac, and the story of that sacrifice, and the way in which all belief and all understanding of what is moral on earth was suspended because God had commanded that Isaac be sacrificed. So it, against all his better judgment, Abraham had to sacrifice Isaac, and proceeded to get to the last point before doing it, right? So I don't know. I think that story foretells a little bit of what you're saying. It's like at times it seems like because of our trust in God, we have to suspend our moral framework to follow God into doing things that may be immoral at times. It's like that's the original justification for Christian war, for Reinhold Niebuhr. You look at Obama's Nobel Prize speech 2009. What did he say? He was like, some wars are just. Not all wars, but some wars. And that's exactly kind of I think the origin of that story is how do we divide what is moral action and immoral action? But I think, honestly, the biggest risk with religion, Krishan, is about how the religion allows us to separate people into persons and lesser than persons, like adherents and non-adherents, or enemies and friends. So I think that's the biggest thing. But if it's an action-based religion, then I think it's probably better, because then people judge action instead of just piety.
Is that what you believe, by the way, or is this just trying to steel man the position?
I don't ever really take positions that I'm not really fairly committed to. I just engage in good faith. I try to.
As far as I understand the story of Abraham and Isaac, I mean, he doesn't kill Isaac.
He doesn't, but he gets to the point where
the polemic against the people that Abraham, because he's a convert from paganism.
I mean, he's kind of the father of the entire tradition, and it's that sacrifice and that suspension of morality. Even though he doesn't go through with killing him, he still gets to the point of almost doing it, and then God's like, stop, you don't have to now. I think the lesson learned there is about whether or not the ethics apply in every circumstance, and whether or not you can make a transcendent movement towards God's will in a way that seems contradictory, absurdly wrong. You know what I mean?
I just understand, but I think there is something that's to be offered back to God, and even though he doesn't outright outrule it, because in the end it is Christ that takes on humanity and is sacrificed on a cross, right? He offers a replacement, right? A scapegoat.
I don't entirely agree with that. I would say I think Jesus is a figure of great moral clarity in some cases when it comes to poverty and suffering, but I don't really believe that Jesus Jesus is a divine being. So you would have to like convince me of that first.
Well, who's talking to Abraham in the Old Testament?
What do you mean? Like who wrote the Old Testament? Jesus.
You
think Jesus wrote the Old Testament?
Who's eating with Abraham in the Old Testament?
His wife.
What does Jesus say? Jesus says, Abraham knew my day and he was glad. So how could Abraham know his day?
I guess they were alive for like 6 years.
Well, how could he say, Moses, you search the scriptures for the truth, but Moses wrote about me? How can he say that?
I don't understand what you're implying there. Like, it sounds like
Jesus in the Old Testament talking to Abraham, talking to Moses, eating with Abraham, giving the commandments.
I'm just wondering, like, what do you think of the division thing that I was trying to say about how religion tends to put people into the adherent, non-adherent kind of category, and then enact dehumanization or othering on the non-adherents? Because that's the way I would take the tack. Like, from an atheist point of view, I don't think you could.
I mean, a lot of the rules to do with slaves, etc., to do with the fact that man is made in God's image.
Sure, yeah, there's a lot of justification for evil.
Okay, so
that uses God, but that does not imply necessarily that that we say God is evil.
Okay. Greetings, I'm here.
Hello? What's up?
All is well. What was the topic again? Was it on?
You wanted to debate religion and politics and whatnot, and separation of church and state, I believe. Let me look back, see exactly what you wanted to debate on. Yeah, you said topics of atheism being the most rational position, religion and politics and government, maybe a little bit of transgenderism and gender. So yeah. So what's your stances on all that?
Okay. Well, when we talk about separation, I say there's no separation of church and state. Pretty much, the church I would see as synonymous with religion, and the state would be obviously the government and laws and everything that is pretty much government law enforcement that's on the land. I believe that's not separate. I do believe that atheism is also another religion, and it's not the most uh, rational position to take on the existence of God. Now, I know you mentioned.
So I would disagree with that. So I mean, if you want to say that there effectively is no separation of church and state because religion is able to find its way into politics, I wouldn't argue against that. But as far as should there be a separation of church and state, there absolutely should be. And it is like, that is a part of like our government. Like there is a separation of church and state in our government. It's supposed to be. And I would definitely be highly against that. Atheism also is not a religion, absolutely not, because I don't have any faith in anything. There's no God I believe in. There's nothing supernatural I believe in. There's nothing. I don't believe in anything. I'm just simply, as an atheist, I'm simply saying that I'm stating the fact that it is illogical to
believe in God. And if you want to get into that, we can absolutely do that.
Why would it be illogical to believe in God?
Yes, it is. So tell me, why do you believe in God?
Well, I think I, I asked the question first. Why did you say it's illogical to believe in God?
Because there isn't any argument that you can give me as to the existence of God that is logical.
Oh, so it's
And I would please, there's not a single one.
okay. So it's illogical to you, but not necessarily illogical outright.
No, no, it's not. It's not subjective. This is not my personal opinion. This is there's just like there's literally it's not possible. You cannot. There's no possible way. Unless there would like it, unless this God somehow exists in a physical nature, then no, because like there's nothing objective that can like justify the existence of God. It doesn't abide by logic. It's all built upon personal incredulities and God of gaps fallacies and arguments to ignorance. I mean, if you have a single logical argument to the existence of God, I would love to hear it.
Well, I'm not really discussing the we're here to prove God. We're really talking about atheism. So I think you said you haven't heard anything that's logical argument to you. So it's
Well, that's not why atheism is rational. Atheism is rational because it's built on like a robust framework, right? So like it's not in any sort of way like subjective. There's no there's no there's nothing fallacious about acknowledging like science and like accepting that it's like real because like there's nothing that you can do to like I mean like there's nothing wrong with the scientific process. So and believing in the scientific process.
we can believe in a scientific. I'll go here. We can believe in a scientific process, but we still don't know if there's not a God.
Right? So
So it's logical to take the position that God doesn't exist anyway.
well I don't know because it's not just that. Let's see, it goes a lot deeper. So like if we're going to talk about that there's no evidence, right? So we have to have like a philosophical discussion, right? And there's nothing, there's no argument that like obviously there's no evidence, right?
No,
So
that's incorrect.
I can't use the lack of evidence as evidence that there is no God, and I don't, right? But me being an atheist, like if there was some type of evidence, then there would me my position of being an atheist is strictly temporary because if you could present such evidence, then my position would always change. My position is just that basically there is no current evidence that is an accurate statement, right?
No,
And until there is evidence, right,
no.
then there's no reason to believe in something that is non-existent with any sort. There's not even like anything remotely like close to any type of evidence that there's anything supernatural. That would be my main concern with the belief in a God. There's no evidence to support like a supernatural, but at the same time, like if you have some sort of evidence, then I would love to not evidence, but like an argument, a logical argument for like why I should believe currently. I should accept that there is this thing. Is that what you want me to do as an atheist? Do you think that me saying that there's nothing currently existing, right? I disbelieve in the current existence of a God. How is that irrational?
Because you made the statement that there is no evidence. Period.
Right, but that's not that's I don't believe that is evidence that God will never exist. I'm saying God currently does not exist.
So God currently does
According
not
to what we
exist. So God currently
according to all of our if according to the evidence, according to the evidence,
so
which is there is none. But if there was to be, then sure.
so God currently does not exist, but he can exist later. Is that what you're saying?
If there's some sort of evidence that we don't know, I'm saying we don't know. I believe in science, right?
Okay, so if we don't know, then you can't say that God
So
doesn't
science
currently
science
exist.
has a lot more answers about the universe. So like my question to you would be like my stance as an atheist is I choose to currently not believe in something that has no empirical evidence to back it, right? And what I choose to believe in is things that have empirical evidence to back them. So my question to you is why would that be irrational? Because I'm an empiricist. So like is there a problem with that?
There is because I think you said that there is no current evidence. Period. Now, do you are you saying no evidence to you that you've seen?
That anyone has seen. If there was some type of evidence, then I'm sure we would all hear about it.
Well,
I mean,
you're very
am I living
sure.
under a rock? Please enlighten me.
Well, you're very sure, but you don't know. How do you know?
Because I think wouldn't this be like making headlines or something?
That
Are you saying that there's like this grand conspiracy to cover up the existence of God? I mean, if this is the case, then I would love to know about this. I'm completely, I guess, living under a rock here.
Okay, so you may think that you kind of go on and on without me taking the first question or whatever, but you don't know that there is no evidence at all, do you?
Say that again.
Do you don't know that there is no evidence at all, do you?
Of course, I don't know if there would be evidence. I'm saying we don't know.
Right, so there could be evidence, but you just don't know about it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that means that God could exist, but you
Yeah,
say
sure.
you
Sure,
say
he
he
could.
do, you say God doesn't exist. Is that right?
Currently, to my knowledge, no.
Oh,
Or anyone's knowledge, or any human understanding of our universe whatsoever. Any type of knowledge at all. There's no empirical evidence.
okay. Well, you say God does not exist without any evidence, so that's not the most rational position to take.
God, no, I'm saying to our understanding, God does not exist. He could exist. I'm saying it's a lot. The reason I take the position of choosing to say I don't believe, I disbelieve, right? I'm choosing not to believe. I'm not saying he doesn't exist. I'm saying I don't believe in existence. I'm choosing to say no, I do not believe.
Right.
I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking the extra step of saying no, this thing does not exist. I'm saying I don't believe. This thing could exist, but it's until there is evidence put forth that can is credible, can be empirically backed, objective, not fucking scriptures, then we could get somewhere here. But until that, I choose to not believe, and that is not irrational.
Okay, so you until there's evidence that you could see for yourself, then
Not
you will
not just
believe it.
me, but sure, it's not just me seeing it with my own eyes. It's just that it can be empirically backed. It's like because if I see something with like people see stuff all the time, and we don't know, we can't verify what they see because it can't be repeated. So like I don't like focusing on anecdotes.
Well, at that
I
point,
like
whatever people see, they see it for themselves. It's proven to them. It just may be you that haven't been proven to you yet, if at all.
proven to them.
In other words,
That's a lot.
other people
That
may see evidence that you have not seen or have not been
okay,
presented
but
to.
if they that's cool, right? But if they accept that as evidence that this exists for everyone else, that they can't do that. That's not logical.
Well, they could be fair and say it hasn't been proven to you. They just have the evidence, and you haven't been. It hasn't been revealed to you, or anybody else that
But
hasn't been
how do we
revealed
know?
to you.
How do we know that what they have is actually evidence
Well, you
and
don't.
not
You
just
don't
a
know.
delusion?
You don't know.
Exactly.
But it's
Exactly.
again, it's
So
proven to them.
until you can prove that it is not a delusion and make it so that I can also see it and that everyone else can also see it, then there exists no evidence that is not a complete delusion.
It is no evidence to you, just to you or anybody else that hasn't been revealed to.
Yes, or anyone else. Exactly how you put it. To me and everyone else. Only to that person. So I see no significance in anecdotal evidence for one person.
Well, I'm not saying the proof is in other people seeing it. I'm just saying the proof only exists if it exists to you.
So what do you think is I want to hear like an argument for like why I should believe in God.
Well, I'm not really. We're not really on the topic of proving God. I was. I believe the topic was on
If you
atheism.
so then
One of the
you
topics.
so then you if you don't have the position that you believe, you're not affirming your position that you believe, then what are we arguing about here? This you just it's just like your attack on atheism. I'm trying to understand your perspective,
My
right? Since we're
perspective
having a
is.
debate,
My perspective is that atheism is not the most rational position to take on the existence of God.
and why is that? Unless if you do, so do you believe in God?
Well, that has nothing to do with it. My position
Yes, it
on
does.
my
We're discussing.
position,
It's very relevant.
my
It's very
position,
relevant.
my position on atheism not being the most rational position is because if there is no, being that there is no evidence to us, to you and I, that God doesn't
Is there a
exist.
rational position?
I have not finished. Because there's no evidence to you and I that there is no God, then the most rational position to take is agnosticism, not atheism.
No,
And atheism
no,
is a religion. You believe there is no God.
no. It's not a religion.
Do
So
you,
a religion. I mean, uh, I don't want to get semantical here, but like atheism does not meet any forms of a religion at all.
do you
Like,
believe there's no God?
if do I believe in what?
Do you believe there is no God?
I disbelieve in the existence of a God
So you do
currently.
believe there is no God.
I currently hold the position that there is no God.
Right. So you believe there is no God.
I I'm not. So you're trying to get me to say that I believe that there cannot be God,
You
and I'm
believe
not
there
conceding.
is no
I'm not.
existence of God.
That's not what atheism. That's not what atheism does not believe that there cannot be God. Atheism is the belief that there is no God currently.
Okay, so if I were to ask you, do you believe there is no existence of God? Would that be true or false?
Say that again.
I'll put it this way. These are two statements. Well, either one of them is true. Atheists believe there is a God. Atheists believe there is not a God. Which one is true?
Atheists believe there is no God.
Right, so that's why I was asking. You believe there is no God.
Yes.
Okay, so that is your faith. That is the atheist faith.
No, it's not even that I believe. There's just like, so like,
You just
I
said
love
it.
the word trickery here.
You
There's
just said
no
it.
evidence. I'm not. I don't have a faith in anything. There's no faith being done here. There's
Okay.
no faith. There's no the I my. I'm just stating my observation.
Yeah.
Right. My observation is that there is no reason for me to believe. No argument. No logical argument. No empirical evidence. And plenty of contradiction that go with the argument of the existence of God, which I would love to really get into here, but like you just like want to ask me why I what like I want to talk about religion more broadly. You're kind of getting like very specific here.
Okay, well, what do you want to know about religion?
Well, I want to know your position and why you hold it.
I just said it.
What is your position?
Our position is that atheism is the least rational position to take on the existence of
Are you
God.
agnostic? Are you agnostic?
That's my position for the sake of discussion.
Okay, that's all I was asking you for.
No,
So
my position is that atheism is the least rational position to take on the existence of God. That's my position.
no, because I'm skeptical. I'm very skeptical due to all of the contradictions riddled within religion. There's I'm highly skeptical.
Okay, well, this is the reason why you believe there is no God, because you're very skeptical.
Hold on one second. What did you say?
Because you don't see any evidence and that you're skeptical, that's why you believe there is no God.
No. Well, I'm skeptical because of the contradictions. There's multiple reasons. So I'm skeptical of the religion because of its contradictions, its moral implications, and the fact that there is no evidence to support that line of reasoning. No logical. There's no logical reasoning behind any of it.
You say there's contradictions in religion. Is that what you said?
In any belief in any God. If I was to currently believe, if I was to currently say I believe in God right now, then I'm saying that's a God of gas. Like you can't do that. There's nothing to support that.
So there's contradictions in religion, and religion doesn't make sense to you. That's what you said.
Yes, not at all.
Okay.
And there's many more implications within it. The whole idea of it.
So it would make sense. So if it would make sense to you, would that start you on a journey to looking at the possibility of God, believing God existing?
Yeah, possibly, but it would, the bar of evidence is very high. Like be a actual like scientific study on this. Like there has to be empirical evidence to back this. There there's nothing else that, and it has to be credible. It can't just be like one little like uh study that is uncredible and makes like these wild claims with these broad definitions, which is and all of the religious theories that have been proposed to science, they've all been debunked. Every single one of them. Not a single one. And nothing within science as well also points to the existence of a god. Like nothing. Like if you learn anything throughout, I mean, are you big into science at all?
I don't know.
Well, you should look into it because it's very interesting. But when you learn about it, like there's nothing. All of the mechanisms to which our universe works, none of it points to any sort of divine deity or creator that is human in any sort of way. Like and ever like or like there's no reason for that to be logical in any sort of way. Like nothing points to the existence of God. So if anything, like there I there I do believe on a personal level there is something else, but definitely not no human like fucking deity. Not not no shit like that. It's just another mechanism to which the universe functions. Why would the creation why would the creation somehow have to be supernatural in order to for it to exist? That is illogical to me. That's why I hold the position of atheism, to disbelieve in something that is supernatural, that can't be explained in the fundamental ways that our universe is explained in. That is illogical. So yes, I do hold the position that God does not exist.
So you're into science and I guess learning all about the data and the different things that the scientists have produced, pretty much different findings and research. And you learn and you observe or do your own research, and then things are starting to click and you understand. And I think you said you're open to, uh, well, I'll just put it this way. Since you said that religion and contradictions don't make sense, and these religions don't make sense, a lot of them. What have you done to like try to see if you can learn more about them so they can become clear?
Debate people all day on this. See if anyone can present me any sort of argument. I've tried to contact preachers to see if they can present me any sort of argument. Every single one of them gave up saying that I'm unsavable, that I'm a demon sent from hell. It's like this is ridiculous. Like I've yet to find a single religious person who can sit down and have an actual argument or actual discussion just at all proposing why God might exist empirically or physically at all in a way that I don't have to like imagine it.
Just a moment.